Undertale is a game which everyone knows. The turn-based RPG was released back in September 2015 and took the internet by storm, racking up millions of views and sales on YouTube and Steam, before ultimately becoming one of the most successful indie games of all time. But how did it achieve this? First, for some background. One day, in 2008, a 17-year-old Toby Fox, who went by the online alias of Radiation, developed a ROM hack for a classic game called Earthbound, which, if you don't know, ROM hacking is just modifying the contents of a game to make it different. He called it Radiation's Halloween hack, and as part of this, he developed a soundtrack which has a song that you might be familiar with. Yep, that's Megalovania. Toby built a small following online through this, and also through a webcomic that he worked on, called Homestuck, for which he composed the music for, stating on Twitter, "Homestuck's 10th birthday was today. Without that webcomic, I would have never started composing digital music seriously. Probably would have never made a game either. Hard to believe time went by so fast." Around 2011, Toby started to work on a demo of a game, inspired by games like Earthbound, which he decided to name Undertale. He finished it in May 2013, and the demo of the game only had a playtime of roughly 30 minutes, and included one part of the game, the ruins. A month later, he started a Kickstarter campaign for the game, intending to raise just $5,000 for the production of the game. He ended up raising $50,000, and reaching very important stretch goals like having an alarm clock app. Now, Toby wasn't really a good developer. I mean, look at this code. Look at how he'd code dialogue. Sure, he'd make it work, but he had to do things inefficiently, having hundreds of lines of code to handle his text boxes, because he was simply pushing himself out of his depth. Now, he may not have been the best developer in terms of technical skill, but Toby is definitely an amazing creator. His narrative of the game, his ideas for the characters, the branching paths, and the immense detail and passion he put into the game really elevates it. Anyways, after the Kickstarter, Toby went on to finish the game in 2015, almost 3 years after the Kickstarter, with the help of art designers like Timmy Chang, who has her own character in the game. Upon the release of the game, to Toby's surprise, the game got massive amounts of traction from social media sites like YouTube, and through trending on game marketplaces due to how impressive people found Undertale to be. It was something different, with an immense plethora of choices in the story, alongside having great characters, rapidly making Undertale one of the most popular games in years, because people simply found the game to be, well, perfect in what it did. But what was it specifically that made the game so successful? To answer this, first we'll need to look at the plot, and the many paths that you can take in the game. If you haven't played Undertale, this video has spoilers if you are planning on playing it, so just keep that in mind. Now, I'll try and keep this brief. Undertale is about a kid who falls into a hole on a mountain and ends up in the underground, a land ruled by monsters that were trapped down there by humans years ago, after they lost the war between monsters and humans. After falling down onto a flower bed, you immediately encounter a flower named Flowey, real creative name there, Toby, who tries to give you friendliness pellets, and you get saved by a goat lady named Toriel. You then find out that you're in the ruins, the first section of the game. Toriel guides you through the ruins. Hi, please subscribe. This is a really small channel, so it'd be nice if you subscribed. I put a lot of effort into this video. Please subscribe. Okay, bye. Showing you its various puzzles, before eventually letting the player explore alone, encountering other monsters for the first time. That's how it starts, and after this point, you're given the opportunity to diverge into one of the 3 main paths in the story, but we'll talk more about that soon. Anyways, as you further explore the ruins, you end up coming across this ghost, called Nabstabluk. He's a pretty silly guy, I like him. Toriel eventually finds you again, and takes you to her home, where she gives you a pie, which is the best healing item in the game, as it restores max health. Before you leave the ruins, and enter Snowdin, the next section of the game, Toriel warns you about leaving, as she says that Asgore, who is the king of the underground, will kill you, as he needs 7 human souls to break the barrier between the underground and the overworld, as he already has 6. But after you convince her to let you leave the ruins, you enter Snowdin, a very forested and cold area. You then encounter Sans, a skeleton, and then Papyrus, his brother, who who are arguably the most well-known characters in the game across the internet. Toby named these characters after the respective fonts that he used for them. For example, Sans talks in Comic Sans, and Papyrus talks in, well, Papyrus. There is other areas in the underground that you also end up exploring, such as the waterfall and Hotland. As the player, you go on to explore the underground and interact with the characters, ultimately shaping the story. What gives this game its depth in gameplay and its overall replayability is its different paths that you can pursue. There are 3 paths in the game that you can take, depending on the decisions that you make when you encounter monsters in the game, with which it then intuitively tells a story. The pacifist route, where you spare everyone and don't kill anyone. The neutral route, where this is by default your first playthrough, or where you kill some monsters and spare others. And then the genocide route, where you kill everyone. Let's start with the pacifist run. The pacifist run of the game, where you don't kill anyone, is the longest, lasting around 7 hours. This is usually the path people aim to accomplish in the game, as you generally experience the most detail and can interact with the characters to a better extent in this run, essentially being the happy ending. When I played in Pacifist, I found Undertale to be very relaxing. The ambience and somnolescent soundtrack made the game comforting, and the game's very scenic nature felt like a warm hug alongside the friendly and charming characters. You de-escalate your encounters with monsters through miscellaneous actions, like complimenting them and flirting with them. Even though I'm pretty sure that Frisk is like 11 years old, I'm not gonna question it. So you interact with them until their name turns yellow, meaning you now have the option to spare them, keeping them alive and ending the encounter. It makes you want to know everyone, not fight them. Even random monsters feel like potential friends. And it feels good to help monsters, not just because the game rewards you, but because the characters feel like they matter. The fact that you can win fights with kindness feels like the game is testing your empathy, not your reflexes. Overall, the pacifist run makes you care about the characters, which makes the consequences of choosing violence later hit even harder. Now, compare this to the genocide path of the game. The genocide route doesn't just change the story, it deconstructs the game. It becomes slower, emptier, and crueler, punishing the player in ways most games wouldn't dare. It's the shortest run, and you need to kill all of the encounterable monsters in every area of the game to progress, with your save becoming an ominous counter for how many monsters you need to kill. As you kill monsters, you gain experience and level up, with your total health and damage increasing each time. You get incredibly powerful exponentially fast. All of the regular monsters you encounter pretty much stand no chance against you, and it honestly feels pretty bad killing them. This little guy, Vulcan, just wants a hug, and you kill him instead. He makes this sad little yelp when he dies. It's very depressing. You kill everything in the ruins, even Nabstablik, who just pretends to die because, well, he's already a ghost. Then, you leave the ruins and kill Toriel. I really didn't want to. As you kill more and more characters, the game seems to get faster. You miss out on key details. The game fast forwards through what used to be puzzles or jokes. You're not playing Undertale anymore. You're erasing it. Now, whilst you are skipping sections and cutscenes that you would otherwise see in the other runs, this is by far the most boring run in the game. Grinding becomes a chore. You wander in circles hunting monsters until the screen finally says, "But nobody came." It's eerie, empty, boring even by design, as you endlessly consume every area in this way. Sans acts differently towards the player in this run, and tells you that if anything happens to his brother, you'll have a bad time. So you kill his brother anyways, and then you progress to the waterfall area, where you encounter the first real challenge of the run, Undyne. Oh, never mind, she's dead. Oh, never mind, she's back. Yeah, I died quite a lot. This fight took me like 4 hours the first time I fought her. You then progress through Hotland and the core, killing everyone else that you encounter. You then reach the Judgment Hall and encounter Sans. He berates you on your actions, and then you get to fight him. And, yeah, it turns out to be pretty difficult. And it doesn't help that after every time he obliterates you, he counts how many times that you've died. The song that plays during this fight is really good, so you at least have something to breakdance to whilst you get boned to death. Eventually, as you get to the end of the fight, he falls asleep, and this is where you drag the box over to the fight button and you kill Sans. After you finally defeat Sans, you go on to kill Asgore with one hit. By the end, even Flowey, the most psychopathic character in Undertale, begs for mercy. Then Kara appears, not as a savior, but the demon that you've created. She offers to erase the world. Whether you say yes or no, the game files deletes itself anyways. If you reopen it, you are greeted by a black, barren wasteland. There's also the neutral run, where you can choose to keep specific characters alive whilst killing others, and you can get many different end screens from this, with Papyrus becoming king and such. Okay, so how do all of these different runs make the game so perfect? Well, one word: replayability. The fact that there's a variety of different things that the player can experience in each of the runs makes it replayable, as the game leaves you wondering, how would the characters react if I did this? Or if I did this? What would happen? What would change? For example, if you kill only the dogs in Snowdin before you make it into town, people will wonder where they are, with another townsperson commenting that it's unusual that their pet rabbit hasn't been chased by a dog yet. It's small details like that that make it feel like your decisions in the game truly matter, giving it real emotional depth. Undertale effectively pushes the player into uncovering as much as they can about what can happen in the game each time they replay it, as it's left entirely up to the player to explore the different reactions from characters and the differences in gameplay that they can elicit through what they do. In one playthrough, you make friends with everyone, and in the other, you kill everyone that you were once friends with, and it feels incredibly wrong to do so. This is something that Toby did perfectly. The tone of the game in Genocide feels so negative, and the ending of the Genocide run literally results in a barren, empty wasteland that once was the game. As by the time you get to Snowdin, everyone's just hiding from you. There's no one to talk to. The characters in the game become as absent as your empathy. With everyone hiding from you, Toby makes it irrevocably clear that you are the true monster in this path. I like how difficult some of the boss fights are in the game, as it's quite rewarding to finally beat a character after dying like 30 times. The difficulty curve in this run is one of my favourite things about it, as boy, it felt so good to finally beat Undyne. And the fight with Sans is just so incredibly well done. It's easily one of the most iconic fights in gaming. For the whole game, he's some lazy, goofy guy, but in Genocide he flips completely. He's the only enemy that dodges your attacks. He literally breaks the rules of the game. He also attacks first, something no one else does. Now, Sans isn't just hard, he's exhausting, but that's the point. You're not supposed to win easily, because you shouldn't be on this path in the first place. The thing is with Sans, is he actively tracks your morality. The more you seem to kill, the more disdain he has in his final judgment of you, as you saw in the Genocide run. You aren't playing this game alone. Sans is watching you, and he is Undertale's judgment of how you play the game. One thing that Toby arguably perfected with Undertale is its great soundtrack. All of the songs are memorable, and they're just great songs. The game's nostalgic music definitely helped it better connect to the audience of the game, as the songs are just so melodically recognisable and pull at your heartstrings. I mean, not all of the songs are emotional. Toby uses leitmotifs a lot in his music, and it definitely helps give the game a sense of identity. Also, if you didn't know, many of the game's soundtracks are linked to each other. And to show you what I mean, this is the song that plays when you fight the dummy. And this is the theme that plays when you fight Nabsiblig. So why is almost every single song in the game connected to at least another one? Hell if I know, but it's pretty cool. Another interesting thing is that Toby only really used FL Studio and used a multitude of soundboards from other games, which he implemented into the music of Undertale. There's a fascinating video which goes into more detail about this, so I'll link it down below. The music within the Genocide run alone is incredibly powerful too. It plays a distorted and barren song called But Nobody Came, which plays after you've killed everyone in an area, truly demonstrating the emptiness that you're causing within the underground, as you endlessly consume monsters for EXP. One thing I found interesting is that this song is the character theme for Flowey, slowed down by 120%. The songs that play during the Undyne and Sans fight are incredibly well made, with Megalovania arguably being one of the most influential songs from an indie game ever made. I mean, even the Pope has heard it. rest in peace. Some of my favourite songs from the game include Save the World, song that might play when you fight Sans, Spider Song, and Dummy. So why was Undertale so successful? People enjoyed the simplicity of the game. You walk around, interacting with the world and characters around you, shaping a story, and it's extremely narrative driven, which made it great to share on entertainment platforms like YouTube. People enjoy interesting characters, and simply put, good game design. The underground itself was interesting with its cascading rooms and level design, and there was always items you could interact with, and characters to pay attention to. There was just always something interesting going on. Not only this, but Undertale is just a comforting game to play with its calming soundtrack and laid back gameplay. Now, I've already mentioned this, but replayability really was such a big factor in the game's overall success. It feels like no two times you play this game is the same, and it really keeps me coming back to it. It just feels so fresh, and there's so much for me to discover with the characters. Now, about the Genocide run, it arguably elevated the game for the player base, from being memorable to being unforgettable, mainly because of Sans. As much as that's a seemingly pathetic conclusion, it was mainly Sans. The surprise of such a seemingly docile character turning out to be the skeleton coming of Jesus Christ, who could obliterate you and break the fourth wall, really mesmerised people. Not only that, but come on, it's got the best boss music. It's arguably one of the most memorable boss fights in the game that I can think of. It's definitely the climax of the Genocide run. Essentially, people would see key moments from the Genocide run of the game, like this on YouTube, or when they were just playing the game, and they'd freak out over it. Now, having big moments like this in the game was great for Toby, as it made the game stand out, making it even more successful. However, the downside of having a successful game can be the fandom. The cool thing about having a successful game is that it naturally builds up a caring fanbase who deeply care about the game, right? Right? After the game's initial success on sites like YouTube, and just generally as a whole, Undertale's fanbase found themselves having quite a terrible reputation online at the peak of the game's popularity. Fan content flooded every corner of the internet. Nowhere was left untouched by the wrath of every prepubescent child on daddy's computer. Fan art, animations, and alternate universes were everywhere, alongside with questionable fan fictions and other art. In all honesty though, like with any other extremely popular game, you're bound to have a small portion of people in your fanbase who obnoxiously rave about the game anywhere they go. Typically 8-year-olds, or people who spend their days hopelessly drawing a Rule 34 of the characters, basement dwellers. Despite this, generally speaking, the Undertale fanbase has been nothing but supportive of the game and Toby's creations, and it's still pretty active to this day. The game still has a fairly big player count on Steam, despite it being almost a decade old, which is pretty impressive. They're an incredibly dedicated community, and have greatly supported Toby Fox's newer work, being DELTARUNE. This social media presence of the fanbase definitely helped cement Undertale as being one of the most influential indie games ever made. There's also a lot of Undertale fan games, which are notorious for just being stupidly hard. Like, how are you supposed to complete this? How? It's honestly crazy to think about just how big this game got. It was essentially everywhere. Anywhere you looked on the internet, whether it was YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, I'm sure pretty much everyone has heard of this game. And if you haven't heard of it before, then that is seriously impressive. That's the kind of reach that this game received. With the game being popular, came opportunities for merch. Undertale birthday card. Sans' humorous. Video game birthday card. Son, daughter.
Pretty humorous birthday card, right? Happy birthday.
And you could find merch for this game everywhere. Redbubble, Amazon, you name it. Although some of it does look really odd. The community definitely came into its own back when the game initially hit the internet, leading to masterpieces like this being created. There's also this really amazing video of someone singing an Undertale song before their house catches on fire. So what makes Undertale perfect? Undertale is a game that I always seem to find myself coming back to, despite it having came out almost a decade ago. I feel it's not one of those games that you just play once and then never really play again, just sitting dormantly in the depths of your hard drive, as there's just so much replay value. There's just so much for you as the player to discover within the game. There's so many small details that you can uncover depending on how you play it, and for the price that this game is at, which is £7 great British pounds where I'm from, that's an absolute steal. Despite the game having lackluster graphics, for lack of a better word, the story and character design is just so dense and memorable, it's excellent. Just, the design of the characters in the game feels so genuine. You can really tell that Toby, alongside Magnolia Porter, really made them with love and detail. The characters of Undertale are truly the focal point of the game. They really create the appeal of it, as they're just oozing with personality. Each character has their own font, their own expressions, and they all have distinct personalities and consistencies in their writing, even down to minor characters which have little significance in the story. I still find Undertale to be refreshing. The pixelated retro-esque graphics gives the game a cozy feel, and there was no big, clear objective. All that really mattered to me was just seeing all of the small details as I progressed through the game. You could interact with almost anything you saw on the screen, and there would be dialogue or a monologue for it. It feels perfect in the sense that Toby has made everything so fleshed out to the point that everything that you see really contributes to this living and breathing experience. Like, it didn't matter how mundane the room that you were exploring seemed to be, there was always a special detail of some sort about it. And in terms of immersion, I've yet to experience a bug in Undertale, so I guess it's perfect in that aspect. But I suppose there's not much that can break when you make a 2D game in a game engine like Game Maker Studio. An important thing to note about Undertale is that, unlike most games that seem to get released today, it's simply a passion project. There's no in-game purchases, no repetitive gameplay loop, and no pointless multiplayer. The game isn't bloated, it has only what it needs, so the scale of the game feels perfect. It shows that Toby actually cares about what he makes. He makes what he wants, and if it ends up being popular, it ends up being popular. He obviously doesn't feel the need to cater to an audience, and it's better that way, as he has complete freedom over what he wants to make, and it's not like he has to shell out to a big publisher, unlike a lot of larger corporate developers. And I guess that's just inherent with making an indie game, and why they're better. To wrap things up, this is a video which I've been wanting to make for a long time, and Undertale really is one of my favourite games.